in different countries, and that has contributed to the thickness of the book, not to the intellectual level of it, but I thought it was very important that we also show that many people had observed the same events going on and had the same version. I'll show you on the map pretty much where my region of concentration is. I'm going to have to go away from the microphone, and I hope my voice can be heard all the way back. This is a rather obscure region that I concentrate on, starting from over here in Iran, Lake Urmia, stretching over to Lake Van and to Diyarbekir, down to Mardin and the Syrian and Iraqi border. This is an area in which Assyrians and Armenians are intermingled, especially in the towns, but even in the countryside. As a rule of thumb, you could say that the Gregorian Armenians are on the northern part of this rectangle, while the Assyrians, both of all religious denominations, the Nestorians, the Chaldeans, the Syrian Orthodox, the Syrian Catholics, even Protestant converts, are to the south of this. There are also many Armenians to the south of this line that I just drew, but they are, as a rule, Catholic, and sometimes did not speak Armenian, but identified themselves more as Catholic than Armenian. But during the genocide were killed, not particularly because they were Catholic, but because they were Armenian. All of these groups are intermingled with each other. They sometimes fought with each other and sometimes died with each other. A lot of the sources that that I use in the book are from diplomats. Here is a picture of a very important individual standing here. This is the vice consul in Urmia, Vedensky, who wrote many reports of massacres against Armenians and Assyrians during the early half of 1915. Those of you who know Assyrian history will recognize this fellow over here. This is the dragoman of the interpreter of the Russian embassy. Later he became General Agapetros, the leader of the Assyrian defense forces in Urmia in 1917-18. But at that time he was employed by the Russian consulate. One can think, diplomatic reports, what can they involve? Mostly when we think of the reports about massacres during the genocide, we have the reports of missionaries. And they are very full, very sensitive, very engaged. But military consuls and civil consuls like Vedensky were also eyewitnesses to the events that they were writing about. They were also the first civilians who would come to a massacre in order to document it. And Vedensky, he was the first person to report what I believe to be the first mass massacre of Armenian and Assyrian civil population at the end of February 1915. It's a little bitty place. I had a pen once. Over here, called Haftavan, in between a town called Dilman and another town called Khosrova, in which one assembled all of the males, both the Armenians and the Assyrians, up to the number of between 700 and 800, and killed them. And Vedensky, he reported seeing how some were hanged upside down from over a well, decapitated, and then let fall down in the well. The next was up again. Others were decapitated after having put their heads through a ladder. Some were killed by having walls pushed down on top of them. Almost every conceivable means of killing happened except shooting, because the army was running out of ammunition. It was after Vedensky's first reports that the Allies began to realize that massacres were going on in a more or less systematic way, and issued in May of 1915, about 3 months later, their declaration that they would hold the Ottoman government and its agents responsible for the actions that they called crimes against humanity and civilization. What was going on here in this area? It's not very well known. Usually it isn't the first thing that comes to mind when you are writing about the Armenian genocide. We know that something happened in 1915 to turn the Ottoman government's interest towards both moving the Armenian and Assyrian population, but also exterminating them. Now, some have talked about a battle way up in the north called Sarikamish, which happened around New Year's Day. The only problem with the Sarikamish defeat, because the Turkish army did lose this battle, was that, Enver, the Minister of War, was protected and saved by Armenian soldiers. He wrote to the Armenian Patriarch thanking him for the services of the Armenian soldiers. So it's very difficult to connect any event around that battle with a direct turning against the Armenians.